They don't study medicine. They don't understand diagnoses. They don't know what terminal means. And yet, across hospitals, laboratories, oceans, and forests, some animals react to death before it happens. Not after the final breath. Not when the heart monitor goes silent. But before. Before doctors make the call. Before families are warned. Before machines detect failure. This isn't superstition. It isn't folklore. It's pattern. Repeated. Observed. Documented. This is not instinct for survival alone. This is sensitivity to something deeper. Something biological. Something inevitable. And in part 2, we go further into the darkness. Inside a beehive, survival depends on efficiency. There is no room for hesitation. Worker bees constantly monitor the health of the colony. When a bee becomes fatally infected or critically ill, something remarkable happens. Other bees detect it, not by sight alone, but by scent. A dying bee releases altered pheromones, subtle chemical shifts that signal internal failure. Before visible decay begins, before the bee collapses completely, workers drag it out of the hive. Sometimes gently, sometimes forcefully, because in nature, a decaying body invites bacteria, parasites, and predators. The hive cannot risk it, so death is detected early, and removed immediately, not emotionally, but precisely. To them, the transition from life to death is measurable, predictable, chemical. In controlled laboratory studies, researchers observed something equally disturbing. When rats were placed near other rats that were gravely ill or nearing death, their behavior changed. They avoided certain individuals. They hesitated before approaching. They displayed measurable stress responses, elevated heart rate, alert posture, avoidance patterns. Why? Chemistry. As cells begin breaking down, they release volatile organic compounds, microscopic airborne chemicals that signal tissue decay. Humans cannot consciously detect these compounds at low levels. Rats can. Their sense of smell is exponentially stronger than ours. To a rat, the early stages of organ failure may not be invisible. It may be as clear as smoke in a room, which raises a chilling possibility. Death does not arrive silently. It announces itself biologically, at the cellular level, long before the final moment. And animals are listening. In 2007, inside a nursing home in Rhode Island, a quiet gray and white cat named Oscar began drawing attention. Oscar wasn't overly affectionate. He didn't visit every patient. He chose. Without warning, he would walk into a specific room, climb onto the bed, curl beside a patient, and stay. Nurses began noticing something unsettling. Within hours, sometimes minutes, of Oscar settling in, the patient would pass away. At first, it was dismissed as coincidence. Then it kept happening, again, and again, and again, over 25 documented cases. Eventually, when Oscar entered a room and refused to leave, staff called family members. Because experience had taught them something medicine couldn't explain fast enough, Oscar knew. Doctors later suggested that as organs begin shutting down, the body releases subtle chemical compounds, tiny shifts in scent and temperature. Humans cannot consciously detect them, but cats possess up to 200 million scent receptors. To Oscar, those changes may have been obvious. But what unsettled caregivers most wasn't just his accuracy. It was his timing. Oscar didn't sit with patients who had already passed. He arrived before death, as if he sensed the moment the process had begun. Not the end, the beginning. In the ocean, perception operates on another level. Sharks possess electroreceptors called ampullae of Lorenzini. These specialized organs detect tiny electrical impulses produced by living muscle contractions. Every heartbeat, every twitch, every movement creates a faint electrical signal. Sharks can sense it from surprising distances. But here's the darker thought. As a body weakens, electrical activity changes. When the heart rhythm falters, when muscle contractions slow, the signal shifts. To humans, the ocean feels silent. To sharks, it is filled with biological electricity. Life hums, injury flickers, and when that electrical pattern begins to fade, they may sense it. Where we see nothing, they detect the boundary between life and its ending. What actually happens as the body approaches death? The process begins long before the final breath. Cells rupture. Enzymes digest tissue from within. Metabolism slows. Oxygen levels drop. Chemical byproducts accumulate. Compounds associated with decay begin forming in microscopic amounts. Electrical patterns in the brain and heart change. Temperature subtly shifts. To human senses, nothing seems different. But animals evolved with heightened perception. Smell thousands of times stronger. Sensitivity to vibration. Detection of electrical fields. Awareness of pheromones. To them, death is not a single moment. It is a gradual transformation. And they sense the beginning of that transformation. Not mystically, not supernaturally, but biologically. We fear death because it feels unpredictable, sudden, invisible, but in nature, it rarely is. The body announces it, quietly, chemically, electrically. Animals don't predict death like fortune tellers. They sense the shift, the transition, the slow biological whisper that something is changing. Maybe the unsettling truth isn't that animals can predict death. Maybe it's this: death has always been speaking. We just never learned the language. If you want to explore the darker truths of biology, nature, and reality, subscribe to UltraFactX Studio. Because the world is deeper than it looks. And nature knows more than we do.